A new poll of Latino voters shows serious warning signs for the Republican Party ahead of the midterms. The survey, run by Florida Atlantic University for Bloomberg, shows the voter bloc that helped deliver the White House for Donald Trump might actually be leaving his party. More than 55% of Latinos cited the economy or inflation as their biggest concerns. Nearly 18% chose immigration as their primary worry. Bloomberg reports the numbers are in line with what Hispanics said before the 2024 election, suggesting they've seen little relief under Republican control of the White House and Congress since Trump took office in January last year. Democrats only need to win a handful of seats to take back the House. And according to the Cook Political Report and a Bloomberg News analysis, there's nearly a dozen seats with large Hispanic populations that are vulnerable for Republican. A good number of them are in Texas, California. You see them there on the screen. Want to bring in reporter for Bloomberg News, Alicia Diaz. She has, of course, been tracking this story. So talk a little bit about how this dynamic is playing out going into the midterms, right? Because we've heard pockets of this concern. I hear it from sources in Florida. I've seen it on the ground in Texas. But where are you looking and what underpins this erosion of support in a voting bloc that was with Republicans, but is not a given for either party right now?
Absolutely. And as you said, a key point is that it's not a given for either party. Yes. And there's still 6 months till the midterm. So there's opportunity for both parties to kind of have inroads. However, the state of play right now is that they are not feeling that economic relief that Republicans and that the president had promised. And so that was a big thing that turned out Republicans or Latino voters specifically in places like Florida and South Texas, not only immigration, but getting a little bit of relief when they pay their rent, their mortgage, trying to put their kids through school, things like that. And so the state of play is that Democrats have this opening. However, it's not guaranteed, as we know.
And how do you exploit it, right? The opening exists, but is it just a focus on affordability? I mean, as I look at more of these House races, too, all politics does end up being local, even as the issue set has remained national. So where are some of the places that you're looking outside of Florida and Texas? You know, if we put it back up on the screen, I think people will be able to read through. There's a New York race that could be impacted by these dynamics. Colorado, the Gabe Evans seat is obviously fascinating. But where are some of the other places?
Absolutely. Like you said, New York, Colorado. I want to say there was a Pennsylvania House seat that was on there. But really, it is kind of a national concern. It's not only these pockets that we tend to look at when we think of Hispanic voters, places like South Florida, South Texas. Universally, it's not feeling that relief in their pocketbooks. And policies like the tariffs are kind of trickling in. Democrats have a real opportunity to capitalize on that and how that is pushing, their paychecks to the brink, really.
I wonder if this polling shows any signs of if Democrats are doing a good job at that. And I say that because they have made their stand right now on the DHS issue, on immigration overreach, and certainly polling bears out the fact that there is concern from Hispanic voters and voters across the board about the way the administration is carrying that out. But I wonder if there's enough sense that Democrats are the alternative for a voting bloc that's not wed to either party.
Absolutely. And it is interesting to see, as you know, looking back at 2016 and in 2020, 2024 is the time that we really saw Latinos push away from the Democratic Party. It was about a 50-50 split between support for Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump. And that really underscores your point of that there is not that generational and historic loyalty to either party. And I talk to analysts who kind of say that Latinos tend to go, do I like the status quo right now? And if not, that doesn't bode well for the party in power. And so that is sort of a foreboding tale for Republicans going into November of, is the status quo enough?
I will say I've had strategists from both parties make clear to me that they feel their parties have overplayed or underplayed their hand with Latino voters, just sort of assuming that they will come along because of whatever they did in the last election cycle. And so I think that's notable as we continue to track this group of voters. I will also say something that I'm coming to this conversation with is a conversation that I had overnight with Senator Cory Booker. We did a book talk. His new book is out. It's about virtue. We talked about it on Morning Joe yesterday with him as well. But I thought one of the things that I asked him is he makes this point about keeping open arms and trying to broaden the tent and broaden the coalition, getting rid of purity tests, especially within the Democratic Party. But I pressed him on this idea of, OK, that makes sense, except for when you have a moment where You are Senator Martin Heinrich, Democrat from New Mexico, and you've built a relationship with Markwayne Mullin across the aisle, and he gets nominated to be DHS secretary, and you vote for him because you trust the person you've built a relationship with. And he sort of said, you know, we can't pillory Heinrich for stepping out of line once. Notably, he did not defend John Fetterman, who I think has stepped out of line with party orthodoxy multiple times. But how do you square that circle? Are voters as purity test motivated as some of the base voters on the Democratic side or on the Republican side? And where do Hispanics fall in that conversation?
It's fascinating. I think talking to people on the ground, especially when I go to election sites,
Yes.
A lot of people really value that idea of a politician sticking to their values, whether that goes against or for their party. And I feel like we do get stuck in this Washington bubble of, you know, looking at the votes on the Hill and who split from their party, who are the detractors. Where at the end of the day, it's not clear and possibly likely that voters actually don't acknowledge that in the way that we do kind of in the Beltway.
Yeah, and I do think that you make an excellent point there where it's, if you can defend it, if you can talk to your constituents and reason them through the way that you did it, most often, that's why incumbency is so powerful. They voted for you before, and we see how it pans out. But again, I do wonder in such a hyper-partisan environment if there's space for that anymore. And it's one of the things that Booker was grappling with me on stage, and that I think the parties both are going to have to grapple with going forward. Reporter for Bloomberg News, Alicia Diaz, thank you for coming on. And her latest piece is fascinating. It's available to read online right now. Republicans risk losing Latino support ahead of November.